Today I'm going to tell you why learning how to edit will make you a better director and better content creator. I'm going to offer different real-life examples of bad directors and bad camera operators not knowing what they really wanted, not shooting for the edit. This is true also for capturing audio, and how we were able to fix it in post, or better said, how I fixed it in post. Relying on effects to address something not captured is always an expensive proposition. I'll throw some numbers at you to be mindful of. Plus, I'm going to offer one example of how a facility didn't know enough about their own digital workflow and how this directly affected their edits and their bottom line. That's coming up. Welcome to episode 50 of Hollywood Unapologetic. My name is Orlando Delbert. Today I want to talk about filmmaking essentials, why learning how to edit will make you a better director and content creator. Prepare to not fix it in post. Wow, 50 of these already? Yes. We have tons more planned for you all coming up, but let's just jump in. One of the things I've seen so many times from inexperienced film directors, and even more so from camera operators shooting on location for television, lack of coverage and thought given to how it's going to be edited. One of the things I talk about in this whole video series and have written books about is the need for preparation. Without any doubt, there are a lot of moving parts to any production, big or small. But the only way to really put together something of value and see it through completion is planning as much as you possibly can way before a single frame is captured. Part of that planning is laying out your shots on cards to see how the story flows from one scene to the next during the development stage, through storyboards and shot descriptions in your shooting script, all to help put together your budget, shot list, and shooting schedule. What happens all too often, either through inexperience and in some cases the director's hubris distorts his ability to make constructive decisions, can all get in the way of knowing what every shot is going to be. Running through the scenes one by one on paper and envisioning each camera movement, blocking of the actors, even setting up your lights has to be thought about and considered. This by far is the second most important part of the whole process, and the first being, of course, having a good story. I mean, your story is just everything. I mention this because I've heard thousands of times over the decades of my being in this business, we'll just fix it in post. Yes, I did say thousands. You know what? That not only is a sign of a shitty or lazy director not doing his damn job all the way through, but it also a sign that your post-production expenditure will be higher and more time-consuming too. And for many projects, most of the budget goes directly into post-production. The last feature I worked on is a good example of this. A friend of mine was a picture cutter on the film and saw problems right at the beginning of post. Arguments began when the director would ask for shots that just never existed to be cut into scenes they just never shot. Even in the edit bay, he would get angry with the edit staff because the coverage needed was never captured. He would blame the editors for non-existing shots and sometimes missing scenes altogether. Some of the bigger shots needed were given to a boutique special effects house to complete. When the producers learned how expensive the fix-it-in-post approach was going to be, I was asked to do some special effects shots as well. A common problem with the shots I was asked to correct was that, due to lack of planning, all of their mistakes could have been entirely avoided. One example of this was when they shot a couple having a conversation next to the woman's car from different angles, reflections of the camera crew, and the boom was captured bouncing off of the glass and of the side of the car. The simple solution was to use a longer lens, moving the camera back just a little and covering everything in black. Since the car was also black, it would have minimized their exposure through the lens. Other shots included reflections and mirrors of himself and the crew. The camera operator didn't notice as he passed by. And I'm talking shooting head-on directly into the mirrors. These shots were made it through review on set and during playback as well. Multiple takes. Both the camera operator and the director should have spotted these issues then and there. When plotting these out on paper during development, this should have been thought about and considered. They could have taken down the mirrors, which didn't add any value to the storytelling whatsoever. Another common problem is not getting enough B-roll nor getting room tone. I've seen this much more often in smaller independent productions where things weren't planned out or just rushed during principal photography. Bad audio is a common problem in a lot of smaller productions, but oftentimes an inexperienced director will even have overlooked a good sound recording altogether or just think of it as an afterthought to be fixed in post. Audio is also important to be considered early on and addressed during the scouting of locations. Will the sound of lights be picked up? Will the highway across the street or the schoolyard down the block be picked up? Is the location and the flight path? These things have to be considered and planned for early on. But this isn't unique just shooting for a motion picture. For many years I've worked for various television shows and news programs, and one of the most common issues we had was getting clips either shot on location or during interviews with no padding in the front or back of the clip. One show in particular, as part of the motion design team, we would take clips relevant to the topic of the shows being shot on stage that day. We would need to create 2 different versions of 2 different animations at different resolutions and aspect ratios to be used by the picture cutters while assembling their segments, as well as to be projected on screen in front of a live studio audience during live taping. And we shot a minimum of 2 episodes on production days, sometimes as high as 5. And without fail, almost every single shot cut off way shorter than what we needed. Each animation we designed were 10 seconds long, with 2 of the versions having loopable backgrounds. And almost every single clip we had to work with only gave us a few frames before the camera was moved or stopped recording. Ever stretch 5 or 6 frames to fill 10 seconds and make it look like moving coverage? It's not that easy. And we produce more than 220 episodes a season. Granted, shooting E&G styled shots is different than a controlled environment of a feature film, but the common element that both scenarios share is capturing everything the editors are going to need. If you're shooting on location, holding a camera on your shoulder, if you're not getting shot at, or about to be mauled by a tiger, or if your life isn't in peril, how much harder is it to stand there another few seconds and give us, in post, some handles to work with? The answer is, it's not hard at all. Oh, and the feature I just mentioned had a bunch of shots that needed stabilizing done in post as well. Their DP shot a lot handheld and left no handles for us to work with. The scenarios I just mentioned, unfortunately, are very common and often avoidable issues that are easily correctable, one during the planning stage during development, the other on the fly using little mindfulness, knowing someone else has to work with the footage you give him or her next. But all too common, it's either inexperience or even a lack of mindfulness of how the footage is going to be used next. And just to give you a little perspective on cost, if you are hiring a picture cutter to work on your project, going rate today is around $50 an hour. I've known some cutters get up to $120 an hour. Remember to include the time it takes to ingest and log the footage too, and if there will be assistants doing it and their costs. And for the special effects side, the facilities and someone like myself will charge $225 an hour per edit station. That's an average card rate. This includes 1 picture cutter, 1 assistant picture cutter, and associated facility fees. That's $1,800 for 8 hours, $9,000 for 5 days, and more than likely, if you're in a facility, you're looking at more than 8-hour days and far more than just 5 days of edit time. Factor in your overtime too. If you're in post for months, which you will be for a feature-length film, this ends up being very expensive. You can see how easily not planning a shot and wanting to fix it in post can be pricey. The number I keep in mind is if there's any type of animation to be made, include in your budget $1,000 per finished second. So if you have effects that need things taken out, like I had to do on this feature, or if things digital or practical have to be added, that cost is a good benchmark to work with. And yes, even taking something out. When something is removed from a shot, someone has to fill in the hole you just made with either a digitally made element or footage to be composited in. I'm going to offer an example of how not knowing or being mindful of your workflow can be problematic and costly. Keep these numbers I just mentioned in mind. One other example for you was my time running a graphics department for a television network. There were a lot of technical issues with machines not able to talk to one another throughout the whole facility. Our design workstations had problems communicating with the computers in the edit bay, the control room, and the workstations for the weather department. I found out the hard way there was no connectivity with any of the workstations anywhere in the facility. No cables were run during all of the years the network was in the production studio. And can you imagine the time and associated monies lost over the years with dropping footage to tape over and over when needed instead of just transferring files digitally? That's problem 1 we had to fix. Once we ran cable, with much resistance from the person running the engineering department, we found problem number 2. Each non-linear editing system in the facility was different from the others and running older operating systems. They had compatibility issues with codecs, one of which was a recurring problem they were not able to edit to the frame. There was an issue with how the codec interpreted different fields, which caused edits not to be frame accurate. And during my first production meeting, I brought the lack of connectivity and the codec issue to the senior producer. Maybe it was a senior vice president. I don't remember right now. Anyway, he said to me, "What is the difference between fields and frames?" The room goes silent. Looking at everyone's faces, I could see that most of them didn't know the answer to that either. Let me just say, it was downhill from that moment on. If you're working with free-to-air broadcast analog television, and this was before high definition was required everywhere just yet, you need to know what are frames and what are fields. And in case you don't know, standard video format consisted of 2 fields to make up 1 video frame. When video was displayed on a video monitor, the fields were displayed odd-numbered lines on the screen first and then even line numbers afterwards. This process was called interlacing. The issue the picture cutters had was that the codecs that they were using had problems deciphering the dominant field. This caused inaccurate edit points in their edits, causing missing frames and flashes. Field dominance is the point at which edit is the interlaced video occurs. There's quite a bit more to it, but that's all we need to know right now without getting too technical in the video engineering of it all. But hey, if you want to know more about it, mention it in the comments below and I'll make an effort to expand on it in another video. I offer this example because from the leadership all the way down, with the exceptions of those who have worked at other networks and shows prior to working there, knew these were problems that could and should have been addressed years ago. Since no one in the whole facility understood the whole post-production workflow, inefficiency reigned, which came with time and high cost overruns. And as a content creator, whether you are planning shooting your first short, your first feature, footage for a segment and a piece for a television show, or just a smaller videos like this one here for YouTube, please be mindful of the simple fact whatever you are capturing has to be used afterwards. Even if you're not privy to the whole storyline, you should still be mindful enough to know what you are shooting will have hands on it over and over again after you put the camera down. And that is the point. Do as much as you can to plan every shot you want for every scene and include long takes in changing your composition and focal lengths to implement in your edits. During development, write down on flashcards for every single scene the key parts which will help you when it comes time to do your storyboard. And in your storyboards, include every angle, camera move, blocking of your talent, and the shots will be wide, medium, close-up, and be specific and thorough. Oh, and those cards I just mentioned will serve you when it comes time to find your investors and distributors. I get into that in my videos on development and distribution. Be sure to check those out too. I'll have links at the very end. And no matter what type of production you are working on, do what you can to understand the workflow. A large majority of those I've come into contact throughout my travels in the Hollywood trenches over the many years know just a little bit, and many of them showed little interest in wanting to learn more, which of course is detrimental to their overall success in our industry, our very detail-oriented industry. And not knowing what you're doing means time and a lot of money lost. The world is greatly influenced by what is seen on the screen and heard on the radio. Let's be the new Hollywood generation. Let's give the world something that will drive everyone to do something bigger and make a positive difference in this world. We're all in it together. Each and every one of you is an important part of our future. You're important to the lives of those who surround you. You're important to your communities. You're important to our industry. No matter what, remain optimistic and focused on your goal. Never stop believing in yourself. And always remember, you are the key to your own success. Take a breath. Move forward. Together, let's create a revival, a resurgence of Hollywood, and bring back the auteur to cinema. Be an active part of the new Hollywood generation. You are a representative of the new Hollywood generation. Please subscribe to our channel and share. Let us know your thoughts and any questions you may have in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, please click on the thumbs up button too. And don't forget to check out our other videos in the series and follow the link below to check out our swag. Thanks. Join Hollywood Unapologetic in our quest to positively empower one another, to empower our industry in the true pursuit of our Hollywood dreams and in life. Hollywood Unapologetic is a continuation of the Pollyanna's tear-soaked Battlefields of Hollywood, a survival guide against the cynicism and the hypocritical series of books designed to help you better prepare for success. Together, we are the new Hollywood generation. Welcome to Hollywood Unapologetic.